Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Sanghaṃ Namasami. So as I was reviewing my manuscript recently, it just occurred to me how all-encompassing the Buddha's teachings is. At the same time, they're also very detailed. By all-encompassing, I mean he's not just directing us towards a comfortable abiding in some heaven realm. It would be nice too, but the Buddha realizes it's not the end of the story. In Buddhism, even the heaven realms are impermanent. So the Buddha directs us to the complete cessation of all suffering, all kinds of suffering, not just the little irritations everyday life, but even the existential suffering of old age, sickness, and for those who know it, death. Anybody yet? No. I know old age. Must be somewhat similar, but even more extreme. And it's very detailed because Buddha not only directs us there, but he gives us some very detailed instructions how to practice. And while, on one hand, I can recognize that myself also, I like a simple solution. Very, very easy to say, oh yes, the cessation of suffering. Yeah, it sounds great. However, there is detailed instructions how to go about it. And again, there's, a simple version, but since meditation is kind of a learning experience, we learn as we go. So, after 40 odd years, I'm still a student, still learning. I thought I knew it all when I was younger. The pride of youth. You think we have all the answers, and then you start to look at it in more detail. Look at, like for example, meditation practice. I read the book about it. I thought I knew all about it. But then going to practice, especially in Thailand, practicing meditation in Thailand, I thought 1 month will be enough. But here I am, 40 odd years later, still studying. But I don't want to be too, I gotta try and be humble, but have learned a few things on the way. Not everything yet, unfortunately, but at least I learned the theory anyway. Yeah. But putting into practice is something else. And fortunately, one of Ajahn Chah's sayings was very helpful, that everything's teaching us. So it's not just studying about meditation, but meditation in Buddhist terms is studying about ourselves. The nature of the mind, the nature of so-called self, especially self. Most of us just take for granted. But the Buddha realized that, it was this grasping of a self, which was the root cause of all suffering. So, it's getting very personal, isn't it? It's ourself, getting right close to home. So normally, I think usually a student would study something a bit abstract. I went to study about engineering, but I realized that it was, studying about something very abstract, when the real problem was in here. Most of my problems were not engineering problems. They were my own mental problems. So that's where the work really would be useful. But of course, at university, they don't really, I even studied a bit of psychology, and that didn't even help to understand my own mind. But the Buddha gives us the guidance that through meditation practice we can learn to understand the body, feeling, states of mind, the Dhammas. But of course, it takes practice. And the Buddha did discovered a very particular way of practice. There are many forms of meditation, and the Buddha even borrowed some from India. He borrowed the meditation exercises in concentration or samatha. He trained there with these different teachers, and even advanced to a very high level of meditation in that tradition. But for himself, it wasn't the end of suffering. So he branched off and made up his own meditation practice called vipassana meditation or insight meditation. And nowadays it's become a bit of in some circles, I guess, a bit of a fad. Mindfulness practice and insight meditation, but if you go back to the original scriptures, the Buddha lays it out quite clearly how to practice it. And when it gets down to the details, it can be, what should I say? Should I say complex? Or just say refined? Yeah. Complex sounds a bit negative, doesn't it? Very refined practice, very refined. So one of the Buddha gave, for example, 3 main modes of practice based upon a certain template. And of course, the most well-known one is the Four Noble Truths, right? You all know the Four Noble Truths. I mean, it's based upon the Buddha's insight into unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. But he used that as a model for the development of meditation practice. You know about the subject, know the cause of the subject, know the cause of it, then know the ending of it, the cessation of it, and then knowing the path to practice to realize cessation. And that kind of principle runs through the whole Buddhist teachings. That's probably the most common technique he advised. To know, for example, the 5 groups of grasping. Know what the cause of them is. Know their cessation, and know the path to the cessation. We can apply this to, you can say all forms of suffering, as long as you go through and make sure you get to the end of the path of that template. Some, like quite a few Western philosophers, they've studied about suffering. And, philosophers, artists, many people studied about suffering. Even doctors study about suffering. And actually, with the Buddha, it's said that the Buddha gave this sort of template modeled on the Indian medical system at that time. You check the disease, then you find the cause of it. Oh, it's due to the COVID virus. And then you find a way to resolve it, find some treatment for it, vaccination. And then there's a path now to practice that. You have to sign up for the jab, and you have to go to the many long path to go to the clinic, especially from here. But there is a procedure. And then ideally, when you follow that path of practice, you get the cure, treatment, then you got to follow that treatment to its end, right? Before you get cured. So some people, it's when it comes down to things like suffering, of course, it's a little bit problematic. I mean, how many people are able to really look at suffering, really investigate it? Most of us, we have our coping mechanisms. So it's notice a bit of suffering, you get into your usual coping mechanism. You either ignore it, distract yourself from it, or try to blot it out somehow with some kind of medication, the wrong medication. Not meditation, but medication. And it does, sometimes it does work. It goes away for a certain time, Just ignoring it, suffering can pass away temporarily. But it's only temporary. The Buddha even talked about the practice of samadhi, concentration meditation, can solve some suffering. You have many turbulent thoughts, many worried thoughts, confused thoughts, whatever. If you just focus your attention on the breathing, then if you do it enough for a sustained period of time, your mind settles on the breathing and you forget about the worried mind, all the disturbances in the mind. You just forget about them. The problem is, though, they aren't resolved. They're just put to sleep because you don't give them attention. So this is something that, some people find out the hard way, but then never forget the lesson. As much as teachers can say, concentration meditation is only, it's only for calming the mind. Yeah. Unless you bring an insight meditation to investigate the cause of that suffering, it'll never be resolved. But people still get addicted to it. It still does work, and I know one person I know in, should I mention the country even? Or you won't know her anyway, but in Switzerland. And she was one of the rare Westerners that I met who was very good at concentration. She used to come to the evening meditations, the all-night sittings, though I didn't go there, but she'd come on a retreat. How about that? She'd come on a retreat. And she could sit there for 4 or 5 hours, just totally in concentration. And it did help her, But then she went back to her usual life, and problems began again, and back to the monastery again, back to the retreat. Just like getting a meditation fix. And some people, especially if they're quite good at concentration, they can get quite addicted to it. It does work. There was I remember one lady came to Chithurst, and she had quite a difficult life too. But she liked meditation, so she just, when she came in, she was really a bit anxious. Went right to the meditation hall and sat there and then she came out of the meditation hall, eyes would be kind of glassed over. Lasted for a few hours and then back to the meditation hall again. And she had trouble dealing with her life. I don't know what her problem was with anxiety, but just an anxiety problem. And the meditation, the focusing on breathing meditation anyway, calmed her down. It did have an effect. But, maybe it wasn't enough that she could investigate what was actually the root cause of her anxiety. But the Buddha gives us this guidance, okay, yes. And the Buddha described concentration meditation as this temporary abiding in ease. Temporary, that's the first 4 jhanas, by the way. First 4 absorptions are only temporary abiding in ease, increasing degrees of ease, but only temporary. Once you're in the deep concentration, no problems. You can't even, sometimes even the all the sensory world passes away. But eventually you have to come out of it again, back to the ordinary realm again. And unless we've been able to investigate how we get caught up with it, compound our suffering, it's going to be there again. Yeah, we can escape from it for a little while. It's like going on a holiday. You go on a holiday, escape from all your pressures of work. You come back and the pressures are there again, unless you've learned to sort them out. Yeah, like found a new job or something, or been able to somehow make peace with it. So what the advice the Buddha gives us is from a basis of calm, and you have to know how much. Some levels of suffering don't require a lot of tranquility or calm. And just your mind is on the breathing, and then maybe you notice, certain memories arising or whatever. And then if you just can turn your attention to them, there's the mind wandering into the past. Is that useful? That helpful? Not really. Okay, back to the breathing again, back to the present moment. And maybe it takes some, mental training because it's been an old habit to allow the mind to wander. And some people, they even develop this very strong habit of fantasizing or daydreaming. Yeah, that was one of my early escapes when I was a student. Just daydream away. When I finish my degree, I'll have a good job, make lots of money. Right, study now. It did keep me going to try and keep at it, but it was only there are 3 years to go. But some of the other habits, some of the other forms of suffering are much more deeply ingrained. So they may require a deeper degree of calm. When I asked Ajahn Chah, how much calm do we need? Many of the Ajahns, they just say, first absorption, second absorption, fourth absorption. There's some teachers in the forest tradition, I think Ajahn Mun tradition, they emphasize you need at least the fourth absorption before you're able to contemplate, before you're able to develop insight meditation. Others say, well, just the first absorption is enough. And some teachers even say you don't even need absorption. You need what they call momentary concentration, kanika samadhi. That's most of the Burmese techniques are like that. They really are focused a lot on insight meditation, not a lot of samatha. I stayed in one Burmese meditation center in Thailand, and there was a Burmese teacher, but the monks who were teaching, the teaching monks there, were all Thais. And fortunately, the one teacher I had, he had done samatha meditation before, and many years in a cave in South Thailand meditating. And he said his mind got very, very quiet, but he still suffered. So that suffering, he realized he needed some other perspective on practice. So he searched around, and he found this Burmese teacher. So he went to that place, and he very quickly had results. Yeah. But the reason was, I would say, he already had a very, very good foundation of samatha, of calm meditation. 10 years or something of doing samatha practice. So, of course, turning to insight meditation, changing to insight meditation was quite easy for him. Mind was already prepared for it. Whereas most people, if they try to investigate, and they try to investigate suffering, can your mind sit with the suffering? Ouch. For most of us, the habit is as soon as there's a bit of suffering, quickly ignore it, quickly get away, just a reflex. Huh? I don't want to go there. Think some nice Buddhist thoughts, pleasant Buddhist thoughts, not suffering. Yes, jhana, absorption, yes. Sotapanna, yes. But when the mind is reasonably settled in samatha or calm meditation, it does provide a good foundation to be able to investigate. So what is calmed down is our reactiveness to suffering. And of course, that's, for most of us, it's a long story, isn't it? We're reacting to suffering for, all of our life up to this moment, right? After this moment, you won't react to it anymore, right? Or it's so deeply ingrained that it happens anyway. whether you try to resist it or not. Stay with the breath, stay with the breath, stay with the calm. I mean, you don't need to go back to just the breathing, but if you recognize that degree of what the result of focusing on breathing is, calmness, there is another experience, calm. Yeah. We had that before. Most people haven't even tasted the degree of mental calm. They only get calm when they're just before they fall asleep, maybe. But the Buddha, he suggests that we try and develop this exercise. They focus on breathing, so you learn to become more familiar with calmness of mind. Calmness of mind is varying degrees. And of course, that's why they talk about, technically talk about the 4 different levels of absorption, different degrees of calm. So when I asked Ajahn Chah about how much calm do you need, he said, just calm enough, which was a bit frustrating because what's enough? Yeah. But it leaves it up to you to find out for yourself. Like I say, sometimes some forms of suffering don't require a lot of calm. Yeah. Or just, you're in the right space, I guess, mental space. If you're no big problems overwhelming you and, good friends around or something. And it is possible then to investigate, why am I daydreaming, or why am I anxious or something? Maybe get some perspective on it. Other times, some of the suffering, it requires quite a deep level of calm because it really shakes us to the core. Yeah, when I think about, my birthday coming up, 72, start shaking in my chair. Old age. Well, not really. I mean, not all the time. I mean, really, but not all the time. Something like that. How did I make it to 72? I haven't yet. but when you think about it, how did you make it? all those years, all those days passed. What was I doing? But the important part is, to bring in this insight meditation, this reflection, contemplation. So once you observe suffering, for example, don't forget the next stage is try and look at the cause of it. Investigate the cause. Where is this coming from? And if you have developed enough, develop the exercises in mindfulness, you can look at the body. Where is it a physical cause? Is it is it feeling? Is it a state of mind? Buddha gives us quite a few different contemplations to use to investigate what's the cause. And sometimes just bringing up that question, where does this come from? What's the source of it? However you want to use it. Where does this come from? And maybe even sometime, I find sometimes it's be helpful even just to ask it. Yeah. Okay. Where'd you come from? What are you about? Yeah. Suffering. What's this fear of old age? Where'd that come from? Well, mainly the fear for me anyway of old age is I haven't been there before. It's frightening. It's new. It's the big dark. It's looking outside in the dark. Can't see it. What's ahead of me? Yeah. Whereas, you don't suffer about being young again because I've been there. It was fun. Well, sometime. but old age, what's there? I don't know. More of the same. More, but slowing down. More of the same, but compounded. But maybe before June 29th, they'll be enlightened, be totally different. There's always that possibility too. The future could also bring not only old age, sickness, and death, but wisdom. Yeah. And maybe for some people it takes, as it were, a bit of a shock to wake them up. Old age, yes, is coming to me, yes. Yeah. So, well, thought I could just have a little, a youthful holiday. But now it's getting serious. Yeah, I think my youth is over, although some days I forget. But though the Buddha was only 35 when he got enlightened, but maybe he didn't need to use the meditation on death or something. He was contemplating cause and effect. His enlightenment experience was due, they say in the scriptures, due to contemplating dependent origination. Yeah. Well, actually, he was contemplating. Starts off with what's the cause of death? What's the cause? It's old age. What's the cause of old age? Birth. He followed back to ignorance. Even though he was still quite young, but he could still reflect. His mind was very, very calm. 6 years, about 6 years of developing calm meditation. Yeah, before he developed insight meditation. So his mind was also very advanced state of concentration. We could realize. But the average person start to think about old age, contemplate old age, and start thinking about it. Could be this, and could be that, and maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Not contemplation. Broomdang. It's a proliferation. Contemplation is a investigation from a state of calm. It's actually inquiring, looking at, not giving an answer, but looking at it, trying to experience it directly. So if your mind goes off into giving you answers, don't listen to it. Back to the breathing again. Your mind's not calm enough. You're just thinking about it. And of course, the insights are beyond thought, aren't they? If you're still thinking, it's not really an insight. You're still thinking. It still goes in a kind of a closed loop. I'm thinking about what I know already. I'm thinking about what I want to hear. I'm thinking about what I like to hear. But insight is getting a new perspective, seeing things from a new angle. That's getting insight, seeing it afresh. Sometimes they talk about the aha moment. Heard of that? The aha moment. Aha, that's it. I had a few of those when I was listening to Ajahn Chah's talks, because he was when he was giving talks, in a series of talks anyway, he usually followed a similar theme. So it'd be a lot of repetition. Well, some repetition anyway. So many times, and I still had to translate into English what he was saying. So while he was repeating things, I would just go into my translation mode again. And yeah, I heard that before. Yeah, okay, forget that one. But sometimes, the mind was calm enough and I was present enough that when I heard what he said, sometimes it struck a new chord. That's what he means. Ah, that's what the cause of suffering means. Ah. He said that last week, but I didn't get it, As they say in Thai, now then it really entered the heart, really khao chai. Ah, right. Before I only thought I knew it, so it kind of bounced off my head. When it enters your heart, it's a direct experience, and aha, that's what it means. So sometimes we hear the same things over and over again, but we hear them from a new perspective, especially when your mind is much more calmer. And when the mind isn't so calm, you can hear a little internal dialogue, right? I like that. I don't like that. That sounds intelligent. That sounds not so intelligent. Blah, blah, blah. I know that already. Blah, 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 blah. But when the mind is calm, it's receptive also. It's receptive, clear, and it doesn't have any preconceived notions. Puts them aside. So it's able to receive what's happening to you through the senses directly. Just like when you walk around in nature and you're looking for something, looking for a certain flower, probably don't find it. But if you just try to observe, oh, there it is. You see rather than try and look, see what's there. But of course, most of us are we say object orientated. We want to see what we're looking for. I want to see, I'm looking for wisdom, but I have a fixed idea of what wisdom is. So of course I'm not going to see it. What I'm going to see is my memory of it. So developing the ability to contemplate, the Buddha gave these templates. There is observing the subject itself. What is the issue here? There is a confused state of mind. And sometimes it takes a little bit of deep inquiry just to be clear about that. What is that? What is that confusion anyway? Is that really confusion? Yeah. Is it doubt, confusion, uncertainty? Yeah. Sometimes it takes a little bit of just not only just hanging on to the label for it. Look again. Yeah. Maybe it's not quite as you think it is. Like I mentioned already quite a few times, my story in Switzerland on the ski track. And I thought it was just anger. I had anger. Yeah. But, so, usually after a while, sort of the general pattern is, oh, yes, I'm angry. Yeah. But so what? But I'll get over it. But after 3 days, the anger wasn't gone. The guy I was angry with was long gone. so we couldn't work out our relationship. Discuss it. We couldn't discuss it. Why did you make me angry? But he was long gone, but the anger was still there. And the kind of general rule of thumb is if something is still there, you haven't really understood it. If you really know it, you're really conscious of it, comes into consciousness and goes out of consciousness. But if it's still there, it means there's some unknown aspect to it. There's still some unconsciousness about it. So first of all, I just labeled it, oh yeah, anger, yeah. It seems like it. But it was still there after 3 days. So, that gives me a little bit of reference. Oh, so I have to look more closely at this. Is it really anger? And there's various ways to, not only more calmness of mind, but practice of metta, friendliness, being more friendly to it. Usually we give it a label and we hang it over there somewhere, away from us, in a safe place. I know that. And then we can forget about it. But if it's still there, well, you don't know it. You don't really know it. Yeah. When you really know it, you go through it. So you can forget it. It's really out of your mind, not just ignoring it. But you've released it. You're free from it then. So anyway, looking at this anger and trying to get a different perspective on it, and trying to be more friendly to it, which is also takes a bit of practice. Trying to be friendly to your anger. Sounds a bit crazy, yeah. You don't need to love it, but you can be friendly to it, because in a way, it is part of you. That anger is part of you. Yeah. But normally we turn it into an enemy, and we fight with it, and then the whole dynamic stays there. Me and my anger. And sometimes I can wrestle it. I can overpower it temporarily, but it's not gone yet. But being more open to it, receptive to it, friendly to it, and then one day it just shifted. It wasn't anger, it was resentment. Aha! One of those aha moments. Aha, that's it. It's not anger, but resentment. Oh, and that was like the mind opening up. Oh, there's a bigger story there. It wasn't just anger at that guy that triggered off this longer story of resentment going through my life. Much more bigger issue. And then resentment, oh yeah, resenting that person. Wasn't just angry at that guy, it was resenting a lot of people. But then still that wasn't gone. It wasn't gone either. There was still some tension and pressure in my chest, my heart. And looking at that again, okay, what's this, And it took, I'd say maybe it took about a week each time. It wasn't just overnight. Every afternoon, every evening I sat there and what's this? Look into the heart and try to open to it and look at the body and look at the feeling, look at the states of mind and investigate deeper and deeper. And then eventually that resentment kind of opened up and it was frustration. Oh, even a bigger story. And probably you could recognize, frustration is, again, due to suffering. Things don't live up to your expectations, and right from as soon as I was conscious, probably, I want to rest, I want to eat, can't get it. Frustration. But these different issues. I mean, some forms of suffering are reasonably easy to observe, I guess. Others, they require a lot more investigation. I mean, when it gets down to, especially the existential issues, like the old age, sickness, and death. I mean, when you get sick, your whole world can be turned upside down, right? Yeah, I knew that with my carpal tunnel syndrome. It was why is this happening to me? What's my bad karma for that? No logical reason. No, I mean, I can't find. I mean, I'm sure there is some cause and effect process there, but it wasn't so easy to figure out. But the Buddha gave us these particular directions to follow. There's the subject to be aware of, and the words the Buddha used: clearly knowing suffering, for example, clearly knowing the cause of it, not just thinking you know about it, but clearly knowing what suffering is, all of its manifestations, which you can recognize probably requires quite a bit of calmness of mind. To look at death in the face. Can you look calmly at death in the face and just observe it? Yeah. Here today, gone. Yeah. Where do I go? Then if it still persists, what's the cause? Look at the cause of it. And this beyond finding a simple answer, beyond a logical answer, it's direct experience, cause, craving, wanting things to be different than they really are. Oh, there's a nasty habit. And occasionally, maybe, sometimes just observing it very clearly, you realize cessation. Oh, there is, like, for example, just noticing the mind going into the past. Yeah. You can spend the rest of your life just reliving the past if you want, but is it very peaceful? Could be this and could be that and could be the other and could be the other, but every once in a while you trip across a very unpleasant memory. But you recognize it's gone. The past is gone, finished. It's dead, gone. Then, the mind can return to the present moment. The past is gone. And you realize cessation then. The cessation of that suffering about worrying about the past. And you have a moment of cessation. What a break. Give me a break. Of course, maybe it comes back again, so you got to keep working with it. You realize cessation, that's the way. Just observe it as it is. You don't need to compound it. Don't need to try and force it. Try and repress it. Just observe. That is a memory of the past, and then ceases. As Ajahn Chah mentioned about, said suffering won't pass away until you really see the tote, the detriment of it. So he said it's like picking it up. You got to pick it up with mindfulness, and then you see that you're grasping it and it's painful, you drop it, let it go. But first you got to pick it up. See it very clearly, what it really is. And if you don't see what it really is, you haven't really picked it up. It slips through your fingers, or you haven't got enough of a clarity with it. It's still going to persist. But when you see it very clearly, you can let it go. Into consciousness and out of consciousness. It floats in and out again. Until you're fully conscious of it, it's not really finished with. So important to keep that in mind. This process, this is what really the Buddha's inheritance, because he invented this, he discovered this, which was the way to awakening. I mean, if you want to just kind of, go to a heaven realm and they promise you forever, but Buddha said, sorry, can't even give us that comfort, huh? Eternal heaven. It seems like eternity because it's so peaceful. They say you're having fun, time flies, right? Time flies when you're having fun. So you're in the heaven realm, it seems like it's eternal. But then you get a real shock when it's over. Super shock. But taking the Buddha's advice, we can follow that path to the complete cessation of suffering. Requires a bit of effort, but right effort is also one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. That's part of the path. Mindfulness, concentration, effort, as well as sila and right view and right motivation, right aspiration, part of the Eightfold Path. So once we know what the path is, we keep applying it, keep walking on that path, and results will happen. After the Eightfold Path, it's knowledge and vision, and then it's right liberation. Huh? Anybody know right liberation yet? Or only just cessation? That's part way there. Cessation and the path. So the Buddha's given us this inheritance, and so useful to put into practice. If you really have faith that the Buddha's teaching the way to the complete cessation of suffering, then, well, put it to the test and find out. Does it really work? Find out for yourself. So, good luck on your way.